Predator Badlands is Dan Trachtenberg's third and most recent entry in the Predator franchise, and I would say he maintains a pretty good track record.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
So Predator Badlands is the first film in this franchise where our main character is actually a predator, or a Yautja as they're called, and he goes on a journey to prove himself to both his father and his clan by killing a beast that no one's ever killed before. While on his journey, he goes to a new world, meets new allies, and has an actual character arc, unlike any other Predator in this franchise. Now going in, I have to admit, I was a little skeptical for two different reasons. The first one was that this is the first time that we've had a Predator as our main character, as I said. And I was worried about the repercussions that was going to have, and I'll get into it later. I was also worried about the rating. With it being PG-13, I was worried that we weren't going to get the same gore and gnarliness that we've had in all the other installments that have made him iconic. But before I get into those, I'm going to dive into the positives first. I think it's safe to say that Dan Trachtenberg knows exactly what he's doing with this franchise. He expands the lore and mythology in so many just new and interesting ways throughout all three of his films, even the direct-to-video one that came out earlier this year. The world building is by far the most impressive here too, in this film. With just the visuals itself, it's probably easily the best looking Predator movie that we've gotten. The cinematography is on point, the special effects are on point, and the action is just, it's great. The worlds here actually feel lived in as well, with all the new creatures and species that we get introduced to, and it leads to some pretty epic action sequences, to which there are many throughout this entire film. As I just mentioned, I was worried about the PG-13 rating, but with all the action sequences, yeah, it's safe to say that this didn't really affect that, gore or anything like that. It's just as gory as the other movies. The only difference is that it's not with humans, it's with the creatures and species and the synthetics and all that. I wouldn't say it's borderline R-rated, but it definitely pushes its PG-13 rating. I also mentioned how I was worried about the Predator being the main protagonist of the movie. And while I could see it having some repercussions going forward, I think they did it pretty well. He was written to be a lot more emotionally resonant, and he did connect with me. I cared about him, I cared about his mission, I cared about him, proving himself to his clan and his father. And while like I said, there are some repercussions that could possibly happen, I think he was written really well. I think there's sort of a novelty to seeing the Predator, one of the most iconic killers in movie history, as a protagonist here. I mean, he's still a killer, but he's on our side, I guess, this time. There were also some pretty emotionally impactful stuff with his character, especially at the beginning. I already briefly touched upon the action here, with the gore and stuff, but to be honest, this is the most action-filled movie in the entire franchise by far, even though it's PG-13. If you're looking for an action-packed, adrenaline-filled movie, this is the movie for you. Whether you're a fan of the Predator franchise or not, I think you're really going to enjoy this movie. I also really liked how the movie ended. I definitely saw it coming a little bit. I kind of had a thought in my mind of how the movie was going to end, and that's pretty much how it ended. But it didn't really affect my experience like it does with most movies when I predict the ending, because I was excited to see the ending, and especially with the way it ended, I'm really eager to see a sequel to this film. It caps off Deck's character arc and journey perfectly, and the final shot is just awesome. Now, for as much as I enjoyed this movie, it's not without its flaws. For the mixed, it goes back to the Predator being the main protagonist. It removes some of the mystery behind the character, and I could see it kind of removing some of the tension from the other films. I'm worried about it going forward, because I don't want it to be deconstructed anymore. I don't want this to be like a trend in the franchise. But here I think it worked. I think it's fine, but I could see it bothering a lot of people. Another mixed aspect is Ella Fanning's character. I could see a lot of people liking her, but for me, she was kind of just the comedic relief that didn't really need to be there. Now, the main negative that really affected my viewing experience the most was definitely the tone. It has some tonal issues, some inconsistencies. It tries to be kind of serious and epic, but a fun and humorous adventure at the same time, like pretty often. And I don't think it balanced it super well. It's not like The Lord of the Rings where it balances it perfectly. This is by far the least suspenseful and least intense of the entire franchise, I would say. And I understand why they went this route with it trying to appeal to mainstream audiences, but for me as a Predator fan, it was definitely something that let me down a little bit. I know the first Predator had humor, but it wasn't ever at the expense of the suspense and tension. For the content in this movie, this is definitely PG-13. The intense stuff, it's the least intense of the franchise, but it does have some pretty intense action scenes here and there. Most of the action is just fun and exhilarating, but some of them are pretty intense. For the language, not a whole lot of anything. I think there was like one S word and that was it, really, from what I heard. Sex and nudity, absolutely nothing. And then violence and gore is really the only thing to keep note of. It's pretty gory, but again, it's not with any human, so... While my main criticism definitely did impact my viewing experience overall and let me down just a little bit, I would say that this is one of the stronger entries in the franchise. It's definitely worth checking out, whether you're a Predator fan or not. And I think it is, again, one of the better films of the franchise, just specifically for the lore building and all that. I think Dan Trachtenberg, again, knows exactly what he's doing with this franchise, and I can't wait to see what he does next. That's it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope you check out the next one. If you want to see more reviews, they're on my YouTube channel. I also have my website, Christian Cinema Critic, which is on my profile page. And I'll review The Running Man next week, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.